My name's Suzanne and I'm an addict.
Hi, Suzanne.
Oh, I'm terrified too, so thanks for starting off. It's like, yeah. And I was really moved by what was shared before too, really. I just, when you talked about having that operation, I thought, God, the depths from which we come from, and the things that addiction does to us, and yet the denial is so strong. I really identified with, I suppose it's like having no solution, just having nothing but returning to addiction, whether I wanted to or not, I'm not in a particularly great space tonight, and I feel quite consumed with the voices that Arnold talked about, that I've got a lot of shame at the moment about where I am and who I am, and when I feel like that, I don't often want to come and share it, really. And I come from a lot of shame. I came into this fellowship with a hell of a lot of shame about who I was and what I'd done. And it takes a lot of courage for people like us to get clean and to stay here. I've been clean many, many, many times. I stopped using drugs so many times, but I couldn't maintain it. I just couldn't stay clean. I had no idea that I was an addict, and that I had been an addict for a very, very long time, and that I had an illness that was progressive. I didn't really understand that, because I'd never met anybody who was an addict. And even when I found out that I was an addict, it still took me another fucking 5 years before I surrendered to the fact that I was an addict and I might need somebody else to help me, and that I couldn't control drugs no matter what. And as difficult a time as I feel like I'm having at the moment, the last couple of days I felt very, very sad. And because I'm so frightened, I can't really cry, but that's what I could do with, is a right good bloody cry. I feel so filled with grief, and but really grateful that I'm in this program, because I just don't know what else I would be able to do. I don't know how else to survive. I got clean some time ago, and I found it really, really, I find life on life's terms really difficult, and I don't always find it easy dealing with things that life throws up at me. One of the major difficulties I have is change. I really don't like change. It terrifies the hell out of me, and I don't have any drugs to suppress my feelings anymore. I feel things today. I feel hurt. I feel anger. I feel sadness. I feel fear. I feel lust. We like that one, lust. Lust got me a lot of long-term boyfriends, actually. And I struggle with accepting myself. I struggle with accepting who I am, and where I'm at. I constantly, today I've had to talk to a lot of people. I rang my sponsor before I got here to say, how can I go and depress these people? I know you just said that. I just thought, God, how can I come here and share feeling so fucking depressed, And she said to me, well, just got to put one foot in front of the other and get on with it, because this is recovery and this is life, and be honest and be real, and that's, I suppose. And I suppose for me, sometimes it feels harder to do that, to come here and say that I'm depressed, and that, you know, this week I've not really wanted to get up and go to work. I have felt like I wanted to just stay in my bed. And when I got clean, I stayed in my bed quite a lot. It felt really hard to get up and face life. And I was grateful that all I had to do was just come to meetings, as many meetings as I could, because you know, if I weren't sleeping, then I had to be with myself, and being with myself was so unbearable. It was just so unbearable to be with me. So coming to meetings was a good escape for me, and I too kind of had the fear of using, and that propelled me into coming to meetings as often as I could. And you know, for me, without coming to meetings every day, I don't think I would have stayed clean, because in the early days, and you know, within that 24-hour period of coming to a meeting and then getting up in the next morning, my head would have already started to tell me that it was a good idea that I should go and use, and that actually people in these meetings didn't like me, and that you couldn't make it. And one of my big ones early in recovery was I was too damaged. I was much more damaged than any of you. And I feel really fortunate that at the times when I felt like you know, when I wanted to leave, I felt like I really listened to that voice in my head that says, you know, just get out of here. That I'd come to a meeting more often than not, and somebody would share that exact same thing that I had going on, and I would go, fuck, that's me. They're sharing how I'm feeling. They're sharing what I'm thinking, you know. And I think for me, that's really what's kept me here and still keeps me here a lot of the time. As much as I now have grown up quite a lot in this fellowship and have a lot to give back, and I've always given back in the fellowship, I really have needed people to be honest in meetings and share what's going on with them and how they're getting through it, because I just need that identification. It doesn't take much for me to start thinking I'm different from all of you and separate myself. And I don't always feel connected to a higher power. And when I come into a meeting, I somehow get plugged in to a power greater than myself, which you all are. You know, I really can't do this on my own. And I think, you know, I know that very clearly in my step one, that I can't do this by myself. And for me, it's not just about using drugs. It's about recovering. It's about living my life. I can't really stay clean on my own. Because as I told you already, I believe my insanity most of the time. And So I'm here today to share my experience, strength and hope, and that I suppose the miracle is that today I haven't once thought about using, you know, and I have thought about not getting out of bed, but I did get out of bed, and I did drag my sorry ass into work. I'm sure they wished at work that I'd have gone home. And I've turned up for for my recovery tonight, and I haven't harmed anybody. As much as I didn't want to eat and feed myself and look after myself today, I tried to do the best that I could. And I did reach out for help as best I could today with people, and asked them to help me where I felt like I couldn't help myself, and people were there for me and said, "You'll be all right," you know. And that's what I need. I need people to tell me that it's going to be okay. You just need to put one foot in front of the other and you'll be all right. Because I before I came into this fellowship, I relied on addiction. I only had addictive, insane thinking to rely on, and that was it. And so I came always to my own solutions. And the programs asked me to be a bit more open-minded and to consider the fact that there might be another way to do things sometimes, rather than just my own way. And I suppose I'm getting used to that. The longer I stay clean, the more I think I can just rely on myself. I got it. And it takes a lot of humility to be vulnerable and to ask for help. I'm not always humble, and I don't always like to be humble. But there's a saying in NA, isn't there? You can't save your arse and your face at the same time. So, I suppose one of the other things, the fundamental thing that I did when I got here, other than go to meetings, was get a sponsor and start working the steps, really. And I think for me that's been a fundamental, that's been the reason, another reason I'm still here, is because I've tried to stay clean and come to meetings without doing any step work. And I again went back out and used more, and I have help. Can you help me? I found a woman. I asked a woman to help me to work through the steps, and I got a service commitment at meetings. I did a bit of H&I, because when I was in prison, H&I came into prisons. I got a H&I commitment, and I was glad that I did get commitments at meetings. Again, for those days that I didn't really want to go. You know, coming and turning up and having to do a commitment always helped me to feel better. I suppose through working the steps I got to understand a bit more about the disease of addiction. And I was listening to a tape the other day, and this guy was sharing a bit about you know, the kind of spiritual aspect of this disease, and that it needs to be treated with doing service for others and doing things for others and giving, you know. And I don't know about you, but a bit like what Arnold was sharing, really. I wanted this for free, you know. I wanted to be clean, be happy, and have a good life without having to do anything about it, you know. I didn't really want to have to put in any work. You know, my life was full of shortcuts. You know, if I wanted some money, I just took it. You know, if I wanted anything, I just stole it. And yes, I was driven by my disease, but and there was, you know, coming and working the steps meant I had to do some work. You know, I had to kind of take some responsibility for my addiction. And for me, that work in the steps was that, really, that, you know, I'd heard that I wasn't responsible for, I'm responsible for my recovery, and if I wanted to recover, then I needed to work a 12-step program. And I wanted that, and I wanted what I saw other people had. And I knew that they hadn't just sat here, that they'd taken some time and looked through the 12 steps of this fellowship and worked them in their lives. And I wanted that, and it's taken so long. It feels like this recovery process takes so bloody long. You know, I feel like I was in some kind of a haze for the first 5 years of my recovery, and I probably was. You know, I got clean, and lots of things changed as a result of me kind of putting the drugs down. You know, it meant that I kind of wasn't going to school. My life was completely unmanageable when I got here. I was never on time for anything. You know, I still didn't take my kids to school on time for a long time after I got clean. You know, I remember that my neighbour downstairs said to me, she said to me, "Do you know anybody who wants to get married?" And it was like, my image just came straight back. Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, I know people. I'll get back to you. You know, that's how it was like, I didn't have to think twice. It was like, yeah, no worries, I'll find you somebody. And I, you know, and then I spent the next week trying to avoid her, because it was like, how was I going to tell her no, that I'm not doing that, and I don't do that, really. And, well, eventually she just didn't speak to me anymore. You know, I come from, as I said, I've got, I don't know if I did say, but I've got 2 children, and so I got clean with them. And it feels like a lot of things didn't settle as soon as as I said, as soon as I got clean. I was very, very angry. I spent a lot of time shouting and screaming at my kids. My emotions were all over the place, and I felt a lot like not a lot had changed. I just wasn't using drugs for a while, really. And again, it was people in the fellowship that said to me, you know, recovery will also affect your children like addiction did, you know, that they too will feel the joys of recovery and recover with you. And my daughter was very frightened of me when I got clean. I mean, when I remember her being at home with me, and we played around, and she started crying because she thought I was going to hurt her. I mean, I was horrified that she would think that, but the person that she knew was a raging, addict who was either angry or fucking eyes as wide as anything, or coming down or waiting for, or, you know, she was constantly in the way because I needed to use. And so that's who she knew. I was terrifying when I was using. I abused a lot of people, including myself and my kids. And it took a long time for that relationship to be repaired. And I don't think it would have changed unless I'd kind of worked the steps. The steps sort of seemed to give me a process of looking at my part, and an opportunity to think about how I was going to make amends to people as well. And my daughter was on the list, and I really did think, how the hell am I going to make amends to her? How? And people said, well, staying clean is a start. You know, staying clean is making a huge amends to your daughter. And I just had to take that on faith, because I just wanted to do everything to make amends to her. You know, I wanted to do everything. And slowly, I never had any physical closeness with my kids, because I felt too shit about myself to believe that they loved me, or to believe that I was capable of any love from my children or anybody else actually. As a result of staying clean and staying in this fellowship and working a program, I do have a physically close relationship with my daughter today. You know, we hug each other. I don't necessarily have the rest of my family, but I've been able to break that chain really of that lack of intimacy. And my daughter trusts me with her emotions. And she doesn't cry when we play physical fighting games. You know, I had no idea that this program would allow my life to change like that. That my children would have hope for their lives. I had no idea that that would happen. Because you don't, do you? It's that thing about, you know, don't give up before the miracle happens. You just don't know what's going to happen as a result of being clean. You just really don't know. And are you bored yet? Oh, cool. And yeah, maybe I'll just continue telling about being a mum, really. And you know, being a parent has been the most challenging relationships I've had, is to parent my children. I was just at my daughter's the other day, and she doesn't live with me. She moved out when she was about 16 because she hated me, and I went to her flat the other day, and there was a group of boys that had been involved in quite a serious stabbing of somebody, and I just spent the last 2 days just freaked out about my son and whether he's going to live to see next week, or I know it's irrational, but that's how fearful I am for my son's life. And I suppose when I got clean, I didn't really have any feelings about my kids. I didn't even know if I loved them. They lived with my mum. I didn't even know if I wanted them back. You know, I was like, well, I don't know. You know, when I was in prison and people used to get visits from their kids and they'd be crying when their kids left, and I'd just be sitting there going, what is the matter with me? You know, because I couldn't feel nothing. You know, and today, you know, my daughter went to America and I missed her. I absolutely missed her, and I worried about her because I'm a parent and a mother today, you know, a functioning mother that feels things and that worries about things. I have full responsibility for my kids and my life, and I don't always find it easy, but I do the best I can most days. The other thing I'd sort of want to say is that, you know, the other thing that I completely struggle with is relationships. And I've worked really hard at trying to have a better relationship with myself. I don't come from a very, I don't know what you call it, happy background, or you know, a pretty dysfunctional family, and my experiences of relationships have been that if I fancy you, then I ain't going to have you. And I spent a lot of my time before I came to the fellowship, and since I've been clean. That's just swapping one drug for another, I suppose. And I mean, when I was using, I lived most of my life through other people. If I was in a relationship, then my life was their life. My friends were their friends. I didn't have any kind of social network of my own. I didn't have no sense of who Suzanne is, what she likes, what she doesn't like. If he said, oh, that jumper's nice, then I wore it. If he said, you know, wear them shoes, then I'd wear them. And it was either that way around, or it was the other way around, where I just treated men like shit, really, and thought that it was okay to just dump on you and abuse you and talk to you like shit. I didn't have very much self-respect, and so therefore I wasn't really able to respect anybody else. I understand that a bit more today, but I didn't have a clue about that when I got here. I really thought that I had lots of self-respect, and I liked myself. And that's been a really painful process, because I've done some really terrible things clean to myself and to other people. It's very painful to betray people and to be dishonest to people clean. To be working a spiritual program anyway, to be trying to practice the principles of this program, it's very difficult to get away with that. And I'm sure I'm the same as most of you here. We do it till it hurts, you know, and I've done things till it hurts, and I don't really want to hurt myself anymore, and I don't want to hurt anybody else anymore. And as a result of having some I don't know really, as a result of trying to change, you know, every time I seem to work through the steps, I seem to get to see little things that I can change, attitudes and behaviours, and, you know, my character defects just constantly get me into trouble. I think that, you know, the lust has gone away, and then up comes the fucking arrogance, and, you know, but my life has still changed as a result of turning up, you know, turning up to this fellowship day after day after day, even when I don't want to, you know, just keep turning up. And I do feel that I'm in a relationship now that is probably the best relationship I've been in, and it is because I am more respectful, and I'm able to show a bit more love, and I'm able to receive love, trust. Without this program, I wouldn't be able to think about anybody else. Because the core of this disease is just about myself. And it's funny, because me and a friend of mine were laughing this morning that, you know, if we could just have things the way we wanted it, then you would all behave exactly how I wanted you to, and I just wouldn't have to have any uncomfortable feelings, you know, which is usually anger, because people just don't behave how I want them to, and they piss me off. And today I have some tools to manage that, you know, today I have some tools to manage that, and I feel that, you know, I just do my best to let go and try and surrender to this program and to my life. I never knew that I was going to stay here for as long as I have stayed here. Some think I must be doing something right, even though I find it very difficult to see what I'm doing right, even though I feel like I never really give a positive message of recovery. And what should I be saying that I think you think I should be saying and you think I should be saying? You know, I've turned up and I've said what I had to say regardless, and whatever you guys want to say about it, that's up to you. But you know, one of the things they say is, you know, try and look for the message, not the messenger. and and I and I believe there's something valuable in what everybody's has to say. I'm just a control freak sometimes. So yeah, I really appreciate having the opportunity to come and share, and thanks for listening.